Hey, this was supposed to be episode 4 of the first volume Warrior, but because of some things that will take too long to explain, this is actually episode 5. So this is episode 5 of the first volume Warrior, where I read the series as volume 1s and I make a video about it. And in this video, I'll be talking about the author of Spy X Families and Tista's author's other work, which is Blade of the Moon Princess. So let's just get right into it. Now, let me start with some strengths of this manga. The pacing of the story is great. It isn't overbearing while being fast enough to keep you hooked. It's right in the sweet spot where we can learn about the world of Blade of the Moon Princess while also not being exactly bored at any point. There's action in the series, and the author knows how to pace that greatly as well. And also, the author knows how to panel great. That's a big reason why the fights are so good. The author knows how to panel the fights so it's crystal clear exactly what is happening, how, and why. But what really enhances this is the art. Blade of the Moon Princess has great art, especially with the backgrounds. The background art is incredible. The overall art is really good, but the backgrounds are on just another level. Now, my favorite character in the series is Shushimaro, because he's almost like a father figure to the protagonist, aka Kaguya, and is just a very good guy in general. Loyal, nice, funny, and a whole lot more. I also like Kaguya's mom. She was a good and responsible character, quite a realistic character. And as I just mentioned, the fights are really good and well thought out / interesting. I especially like this fight against the flying character. I thought the way they won was pretty interesting. I like the world building as well. While there is still so much to explore, this is only the first volume, and for the first volume, it's very good. It also doesn't feel overbearing. You can understand everything easily about what is given. Both the moon and the tainted world are explored well. While I do think there could have been a bit more world building for both of them, I think it's fine just the way it is. Also, I want to mention the cover. Normally, a cover uses 110% of the space to make the protagonist stand out with some pose or something. But with Blade of the Moon Princess, it's like 40% Kaguya and 60% other stuff. I just find that interesting. Now, onto the bad things. I think the story really takes its time at the start. Like, before, page 40, nothing even really happens. And because of that, a long time ago, I dropped it twice, without even getting to, page 15. I found it to be very boring, but the pacing gets better with time, as I didn't find chapter 3 to be boring at really any time, as there was this event that happened at the start, and there was also my favorite fight in this volume, which doesn't say much, but anyways. Now, moving on to the next thing, I want to mention the main storyline, what actually happens in the first volume, because I've been saying pacing this, pacing that. Alright, so in the entire first volume, there's only 3 chapters. And in the first chapter, it's all of the introduction, pretty much the main characters. There was an introduction to the moon, which was the world where Kaguya was living their entire life. We get introduced to a lot of characters, like Kaguya's mom, Shushimaru, basically all of my favorite characters. And we see the current situation. Kaguya's mom collapsed, and now Kaguya wants to become the queen, and all of that. But we also see that there's this faction within the royal family that really wants the throne, because they're only just a side family. So they try to assassinate Kaguya, but it doesn't work. And then there's this huge fight, and Kaguya ends up being sent to the tainted world with the ancient sword with unique powers and stuff. We still haven't explored that very much, and it isn't explicitly said, but I personally think she's probably killed. I mean, at least it would be more realistic, then the faction would have no opposition, it would just be them. But in the second chapter, Kaguya lands on the tainted world and meets this landowner pretty much, and we see how the world of the tainted world really works pretty much. Also, we see that Kaguya doesn't like that and tries to change that. We also meet Shushimaru's parents pretty much, and we see that they want to take in Kaguya, but Kaguya is, being herself pretty much, and she's just rebellious, I guess you could say. She doesn't want to be there. She wants to go immediately back to the moon to save her mother, pretty much, to see her mother, to get everything back in order, pretty much. But yeah, the faction that overtook the moon are already sending factions to kill Kaguya, or more accurately, they want to take the sword away from Kaguya, and killing her is only the second priority, but they still want to kill her. And in the third chapter, we see a fight of one of the people that were after Kaguya actually finding Kaguya and trying to kill her. They fail, but this was my favorite fight in the series. Because there aren't very many fights in the series overall, but I found this fight to be really interesting, especially how it ended. The end of the fight was, I hadn't seen that before. I found that to be kind of refreshing, I guess you could say. But we also meet this other Empire soldier, I guess who was lost. I also like that character. Yeah, we don't know anything else about him. He's just kind of funny, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much all that happens in this volume. Now, if you're on the edge of buying this and you can't decide if to buy this, if you like some good action action with pretty funny moments, then you should totally go for it. If you read this online and are thinking about getting this physically, I think you also should, because Blade of the Moon Princess is only 5 volumes long in total, and it's also by the same author as Tista, and also a story that nobody can hate, Spike's Family. So if you liked either or both of their works, then you should also give it a go. Here's a couple random fun facts about this series that I found while doing research for this video. Firstly, apparently Blade of the Moon Princess is actually loosely inspired. Apparently it was inspired by Bamboo Cutter, which is some Japanese folklore story that is quite popular, but the author is unknown. But it also has inspired more works. The work I see the most mentioned when I tried to learn what it also inspired was Tale of Princess Kaguya by Studio Ghibli. I thought that was really interesting. Blade of the Moon Princess also has sort of a spin-off manga series. Now, to be more accurate, this is more akin to what Tatsuki Fujimoto has with those 2 volumes of Before Chainsaw Man side story collections, because this is literally just that, but with Tatsuya Endo. Now, this is interesting because first of all, there are 4 side stories in this volume, one of which is the pilot chapter for Blade of the Moon Princess. And this is Tatsuya Endo's first work by a long shot. I mean, the first of these stories was published in the spring of 2000, while the next work, which was a manga and not a collection of short stories, Tista, was serialized in fall of 2007. That's more than half a decade, holy shit. Also, I find it interesting that all of Tatsuya Endo's works are being published in English, now that they have a huge mega hit with Spike's Family. I mean, all of his works were not being published in English, but as soon as Spike's Family was made and became a mega hit series, all of their previous series, aka Blade of the Moon Princess and Tista, got English releases. I mean, Tista ended in 2008, and they decided to release the English volumes in 2023. Pretty much the same thing with Blade of the Moon Princess, but it ended in 2012, but the English publications happened in 2023. I'm guessing the reason for this is because they're betting on people loving Tatsuya Endo's work, which is outside of just Spike's Family. So they're trying to kind of promote their previous works, which are of course, as I mentioned like 20,000 times by now, Tista and Blade of the Moon Princess. To summarize what I just said, I think the reason why it was published in English is because they're trying to maximize Tatsuya Endo's name as much as possible. Alright, that's it for this video. This was episode 5 of the First Volume Warrior, and on the next episode of the First Volume Warrior, I will be talking about Shaman King Volume 1. But if you enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe, as it truly means so much to me to see your support. But once again, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!